We could be able to, they're gonna hear it, we have microphones or it's not.
So Jean's gonna call in. And I'll be watching for anyone else, but,
Just thinking about microphones if we. Yeah, I don't know if we needed them or.
I don't know if we need them for the room because I'm gonna have this puck mic on so Jean can hear us.
Okay, I'm just wondering if,
That will pick it up, right?
okay, then that was my question. No, nope. As long as, I don't want to make any more work for anybody.
Is this live over the? Yeah. So it's not, it's just gonna be taped and uploaded to. Okay. And Jean, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not sure if Anna's on her way or not, but it is 7 o'clock. So let's get going. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded. And it is not being broadcast live over the public access channel due to some technical difficulties today, but will be uploaded to the YouTube channel after the meeting. With that, why don't we just get started and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it
Which
stands,
stands one nation under God.
liberty, justice.
Anna should be here in a couple of minutes. I just got a text. All right. Confusing myself. All right. Any announcements? I guess I will start with the announcement that we've been trying to coordinate the final 2 tri-board meetings and have settled on Monday, the 12th. And I know some people had a conflict, but I think that's inevitable with short notice. And then I think we'll have a final one on the 27th. I had posted on the
Monday.
With Monday or Tuesday.
I thought it was
26, I have the tri-board agenda for the 12th, and it says here, tri-board meeting January 26th.
okay, then it's the 26th.
Mine.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it was that.
Okay. And then Monty Tech I had listed as the 29th, but they have asked to actually go the first Thursday in February, which is the 6th. So that's just a little bit of change and a little bit of an announcement. With that, is there any public comment in the public? You want to, if you want to introduce yourself, yeah, sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Quinn. I was at one people to new representative for Lunenburg for a month. Myself, a fee behind the position now. It took a little while. I just started October 1st, so still new to me.
Nice. Welcome.
Yeah, so I invited Stephanie to join us. And also if now you could, if you're available on that 5th or 6th, whatever it is, that it would be wonderful for you to be there as well.
Yeah.
If you can stick around for a minute, we're gonna go through the calendar. And I welcome you to just join in the conversation if you, so don't feel like you gotta be acknowledged or anything. All right, is there any other public comment? Any public comment from the committee? All right, is there any town manager or finance director report? All right.
You got a seat right here, Zen.
Lacking a finance director, it's you, so.
There actually is. Okay. So thank you, everybody. It's good to see you all here in the new year. I'm sure you've been following along a little bit from the outside. So I'm just going to pick up with the finance department report that I gave last evening to the select board. But if there is some background or steps along the way that you're not really sure where we are with transition, let me know. So we had hired Catherine McKenna to be the finance director. She decided pretty immediately that this was not the right fit for her and gave a immediate 60-day notice. During that time, she did do a fair amount of service to the town, and we are better off having had her here than had nobody in the space. But nonetheless, having an opening, it filled, and reopening so quickly, I think isn't ever good to the public who's looking at a job and doesn't really understand what's going on. So her last day of service concluded on December 31st. Thankfully and gratefully, our retired finance director, town accountant Karen Brochu, is local at this time of year and is able, with her retirement, to serve in a part-time capacity as interim finance director, town accountant. This is a capacity that she served in prior. So we are meeting the statutory responsibility of having a town accountant on staff. Her primary focus, however, is reconciling and closing out fiscal year 2025. It's January, and FY25 is not closed out. That is very atypical. That is, frankly, unacceptable. Unfortunately, there had been really no activity done with the prior finance director on closing out FY25. So that has been outsourced to a variety of consultants. Karen is reconciling cash at the time. Cash has not been reconciled since Karen Brochu left. That is not what was being reported to me, but is certainly expected to be perhaps a finding on a future audit for FY25. So that said, with her primary focus being on closing out FY25, she's not really available for much of the day-to-day operations that you would typically rely upon from your town accountant finance director. The assistant town accountant is new. She's been here for a couple of months. We've had her trained by a retired finance director, town accountant. Her training is coming along fabulously. She is a great fit. She is rolling up her sleeves, and I would say that if we were not absent a finance director, I wouldn't still have a consultant assisting her. But because we don't have somebody here for her, I still do have a consultant in for at least a couple more weeks for that. So I just want to emphasize the operational impact of not having folks cannot be overstated. it is quite crippling, frankly. We also have the retirement of Nancy O'Rourke, who had been our payroll and benefits manager or director, and she had been here with us through October 31st. We tried to get somebody hired with an overlap period so that they could be trained. That did not work. We have a temp in currently from Robert Half, performing temporary services. We have had a number of interviews. We actually used Robert Half as a recruiter to assist in getting a candidate who we extended an offer to today. But there are going to be gaps here as well, as there's things that simply haven't occurred that typically would be occurring with Nancy with the interim. And so there will be a period of catch up and ramp up for the new person. Thankfully, if this candidate does actually show up, they do have 6 months of Munis experience. So that is fabulous. So we have used both Robert Half, and I signed another agreement with Complete Staffing Solutions to help in recruitment. Both entities are for the finance director position. Both entities are compensated only if one of the candidates is hired. We actually had an interview today with a candidate who came through the traditional route, who I'm passing on to a next interview stage with the chairs of the finance committee, school select board, another member of the select board, and Karen Brochu for a second interview. And I have an interview with another candidate tomorrow. So finally, we're seeing some positivity here around filling this seat, but again, the ramp up and catch up and learning Lunenburg and will take some time. But a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel there. The school has taken over processing of their payroll. They have been fabulous in their collaboration to take that back. And I'm trying to think if there's not really anything else related to the finance department. I do have one other update, but I'm going to pause there to see if there's any questions.
Fiscal year 25, when do you think that's going to be closed?
So the consultants know that my request for that to be closed out is January 31st. So far, I have not heard that target will not be met. If I hear that target is not going to be met, I will certainly report it back. But you know, as we get into the next part of the agenda and we're talking about scheduling, you know, even just something like the capital plan, while the capital planning committee has reviewed all of the requests and there is a list, until we know how much free cash there is, it's very difficult to actually have a capital plan. So we can have estimates and plans of what our plans may be, but hopefully January 31st. That was a long answer.
Have they said anything that's come out that's surprising or?
Yes.
Okay.
The surprising things are that cash has not been balanced since Karen Brochu left. That there was, I don't fully understand this, but in Munis, there's some due to, due from accounts that are not, do not look like they have been done correctly. Just quite a lot of things either undone or not done accurately. As Karen knows Lunenburg's accounts. As she's in them, if this body wanted to have more of a, perhaps in an executive session, perhaps discussion, depends on what it is, what's found, but discussion of what is being found, we can certainly dive deep. But if you want a more surface level of what has been found, we can certainly do that in open session too as she gets closer. But I do expect that there will be some issues with this audit.
And the reconciliation of cash, is that
That's,
also end of the year, end of the month? End of this month, I guess?
that needs to happen before FY25 can get closed out.
Okay.
So that's part of the process in closing out FY25.
I want to say, I appreciate that you're bringing in all the chairs to hire this position. I think that's real important. And any type of finance person, you know, first year. Can you just confirm that you did say that you were using a recruiter, but you only have to pay them if you hire one of their.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so it's a 20% fee of the annual salary if we select their
And what is
candidate.
that? I don't know.
This is posted up to 145,
Okay, so it'll be up to 20% of that.
correct?
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
Um, so I do have a few things. If we select the candidates, I know in some agreements, you can put it where the candidate has to be employed for at least 6 months, or some places they do it for a year, being a fee so high, almost $30,000. Is that part of your agreement? Because that's a common practice.
I don't remember exactly all the details, but there is like a satisfaction guarantee that steps back over a course of months, that if the person doesn't work out after this month, it get refunded, and this month get refunded. I'd have to pull the actual agreement for those
Okay.
particulars. Yeah, exactly.
What did you say? Jim?
Prorated.
Prorated, okay.
Yeah.
So there's some clause that would prevent, if someone comes.
Mhm.
With the news about the finance director and the accountants, I think it's time for us to really have a conversation about, and this is something that I agree with you, but I'll share with my colleagues. On the charter, the town accountant reports to the select board. And that's so that position is independent to, everyone in town pretty much reports to the town manager. And the town accountant is the one overseeing the books. And the idea, and when they had the charter review, which Nancy Gray was part of it, this was a discussion. And I remember Tom Alonso actually spoke against making the town accountant, because that position is supposed to review the books, ensure that everything's being done right. And there is an independence from the operations of the town. It goes directly to the people that we elect. And the finance director, is a different position. So I think, separating those two positions, creating a little bit of a checks and balance. And also, I always thinking, it's always about what are we going to do about it. Also, we need to, in my opinion, we need to bring that position to truly report to the select board and have more of those meetings with the town accountant where they're reporting to the select board that they have done X, Y, and Z. We just need to create some better checks and balance regarding this position, because it's not the first time that I hear something wasn't done right and so forth. So.
Are you saying we're organized differently than the charter
No, I'm
says
saying
today, or the charter changed?
the
I'm
charter-
confused.
The charter has never changed, but through times it has become one position.
Oh, okay.
And through times it has come that reporting to the select board has kind of gone wayside, where it shouldn't be. It should be that the town accountant reports to the select board, and they are, ensuring that the operations are happening and everything's done right.
Okay.
So that way it's not one line of command all the way down. I think we need to think about, this is not the first time that I hear of a problem regarding, the happenings of that. And I know there's turnover and so forth, but checks and balance, operations, very important, especially when it's Lincoln County.
So I guess I just respond to that in a couple of ways. I guess the first is a question. Was there a time when you had a person hired in the town of Lunenburg who was an employee who had the title of finance director, who was not a town accountant? Who was not the town accountant? Was there ever a time that you had two people serving?
So I went back into town reports, and Karen Brochu was the town accountant when she first got the job in 2004, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, she was given the job, the title of finance director. That's not clear when that happened, because the town accountant is a chartered, I believe it's on the charter. So I don't have the long history of it, but within the things that I said, I also said, bring that position, that role of reporting to the select board more upfront,
So the town accountant is required by statute that all municipalities have a town accountant. There is no requirement that a municipality has a finance director whatsoever. The finance director helps to coordinate all of the departments of finance: assessing, treasurer, collector, and the accounting department. And in the absence of a finance director, in the absence of somebody holding that title, those duties of coordination typically fall on either the town manager or town administrator. And so it's quite common for there to be a community with a town accountant, no finance director, and there's nobody serving in that role. In a town the size of Lunenburg, with a budget the size of Lunenburg, it's quite common that there is a person that holds a title that is town accountant, the statutory title, and has that additional responsibility of being finance director. In larger communities, you start to bifurcate those positions, and there is a finance director, a town accountant, and sometimes many more layers. And the larger you get up into like the 200, 150 plus million plus dollar budgets. I certainly am not opposed to having somebody serve as a finance director that is independent of the town accountant. However, that said, the town accountant is a full-time job, is a job that is the primary duties of the position, and would garner a salary in this market darn near that of a finance director. The finance director piece is a value added on top for those extra duties. I could not justify at this point hiring somebody in a full-time capacity to be a finance director. And I don't know if there's anybody that would have the skills or qualifications to do that in a part-time capacity. At this point, you know, I think what I had represented to you privately is that I wanted to really see how we went here for the next couple of weeks. And I was going to see if I strip off the finance director title and just post for a town accountant, would that start to bear some fruit that otherwise wasn't being borne by the current posting?
Because those two functions, like having some knowledge of accounting and financing and budgeting, you know, I can see how having the two titles is actually detrimental to the job post. Because an accountant is an accountant, and someone doing financial planning, operations, it's a whole other
So it
thing.
depends. It depends. There are some people who only would want a town accountant job. There are some people who would want only a finance director job, and then there's some probably in the middle. But there are some that have not, who don't want that extra duty. So within the last week, though, I'm starting to get qualified candidates who are interested in Lunenburg and who are interested in the duality of the role.
Do you
Finance
think that-
director and accountant.
Yeah.
Do you think the accountant position with the previous finance director, do you think that was a title and grade change? The finance
It-
director seems like a higher
It is.
grade level, so I
It
think
is.
maybe that's where those two started to come in a little bit or mesh in a little bit. Is
Yeah.
that what happened?
I don't know the history. I would imagine that Lunenburg, like many communities, didn't have a finance director.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a capital.
You-
A lot of
You
people.
had, you
You got a
had,
capital.
who was in lieu of the town manager.
Yes.
They did it, right.
Okay.
But that was the chief financial, what is the?
Chief Administrative and Financial Officer.
Officer.
So they did both.
And
Yeah.
then it changed to town manager.
And that's when the finance director piece came in. That would make sense. Or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, it wasn't right away.
Yeah, sounds like a promotion
Yeah.
within town.
Well, did Karen become finance director?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
From accountant to
Yeah.
director.
So and so that, I
But
mean,
then
There's a way to.
very,
grade
not the same
your
duties.
pay.
No.
No.
It should not be the same duties. It is that,
Put an accountant on
it's that enhanced overseeing of the assessors, treasurer, collector that otherwise would be absent
But did
with a
she
town
do the
accountant.
same duties when she was?
She would, no,
Well,
I would not imagine that she was as town accountant, she would not have authority over the treasurer, collector, or assessor.
I assume if you ask Karen the history of it, she should.
Yeah, okay. That just sounds like a title and a grade change for someone that was doing an exceptional job within the town.
Is,
But I don't know.
is the director reporting to the select board and the accountant reporting to the town manager? Is that how it works?
I think it's
The other way around?
the other way around. Now, one of the things is that the the town manager reports to the select board. The
Right.
town accountant reports to the select board. So if the, let's assume for argument's sake that the town accountant did not report to the select board. And that the finance director only reported to the town manager. Because the town manager reports to the select board, they have authority through if there's something going on.
But, I mean, yes and no, because there's no, a town manager can always stop that bubbling from coming directly to the select board. It just,
I don't think so.
well, again, you're the boss.
Oh, Jen.
I mean, I don't wanna be, doing dirty laundry here, but, if we could just, as you explore it, and I wanted to share this conversation, you and I had a
Yeah.
conversation. You talked about different things.
Mhm.
And, and I think all is valid. At the end of the day, I think we need to have the town accountant that was very intentional in our charter to be left, reporting to the select board. We need to find a way to bring that position to talk with the select board. And whatever your opinion is, that's how our charter is, to then report, yes, this has been done,
I believe the charter has, or bylaw has pretty specific requirements for that reporting to occur. I think it's quarterly. Now, it may not have been happening, right? But that's,
I think it's
I don't
quarterly
remember
to
that
us as
happening.
well.
I think so too.
According to select board.
All right, so it sounds like there might be some homework on this and take it under advisement.
And if you want to make any changes to that, the bylaw committee is meeting
No, I think what
at the
Anna's,
present time, they're looking at that. So if they want, if you're thinking about making any changes, this is a good time to do it. If you want.
I think what Anna's suggesting is that under the, correct me if I'm wrong, but under the current makeup of the charter, the way that it's currently drafted, you could have two different humans. And you wouldn't need to change anything
right.
to have two different persons taking those titles.
Or-
They could be combined, or you could have two different persons. So there would be no change required, I don't believe, to hire two different people.
or restructuring the people that reports to you, Brett, which was something you talked about. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But that's,
Many of us in the private sector have multiple reporting relationships as well, so you could still do that with an accountant.
A lot of dots and word
Yep.
charts now.
Yeah, double line.
Now, the director reports, if there was a individual human being that was a director, that would report to you. However, if the select board is there an issue that came up, they could talk to that person. And just like anybody else, like the DPW, if that reports to you, but if there's something that they said, gee, we want to talk to DPW gal, then they can come in.
They are appointed in the accountant by the select board. They are their direct appointee.
So you're just
The
hiring
accountant
town
is-
accountant right now.
I'm hiring town accountant, finance director. That's what I'm hiring. That's combination.
All right.
That's what's posted.
Okay.
How
Positions in the accounting department right now.
many?
How many positions do we have?
So in accounting alone, there's the finance director, town accountant. There's the assistant town accountant, and there's payroll and benefits. 3. If you go to the entire finance department, it is expanded beyond that. So there you have the treasurer collector, assistant collector, principal assessor, and then assessing admin and data collector.
And whose accounts payable?
Accounts payable is the assistant town accountant.
The assistant town accountant?
Processes AP.
And that's the only one in place right now.
That's the only permanent staff of the
Okay.
3. She's doing great.
Right.
Anything else?
Yes. Okay, so just an update on water billing. So this is where we are in water billing. I sent out a notification to the 11 customers who received water bills from the town, informing them that due to number of issues, their regularly quarterly bills were not sent to them in a timely fashion, but that we would be issuing them a catch-up bill for their entire water usage in one bill from January 2025 through November 2025. I sent out that letter this week because I'm having my staff process those water bills currently, and I wanted it to hit. Those water bills will be in the mail on Monday. Folks have been also notified that the select board will be considering a rate adjustment that is actually calendared for next Tuesday. In a reread of the contract, it is not discretionary. It was not up to 30%. It's 30% over what they charge. So that makes that a very simple vote. It's required by the contract. And so after that vote, we will now raise those rates accordingly. We still need to do some work in dialoguing with Fitchburg about this, but I think there was actually some really good ideas that came from this body about those dialogues that should happen. So that's on the docket, but right now the priority is getting the build out and getting the money in and paying Fitchburg.
Wasn't there bills prior to 25?
We have billed up through December 2024. Currently, we've billed out, but we had to get authorization to pay a larger period at town meeting.
So how far back? Did we appropriate 90,000?
We appropriated 90,000. The former finance director had stated that we could make a payment in, I believe, July or August that we needed town meeting authorization for. So we got that town meeting authorization in November.
So we're paying the bill as the town and then they're paying us.
And yeah, so they bill us, we bill the customers, we pay them. I'd actually love for the town of Lunenburg to be out of this relationship. And
Is that possible?
yes.
Good.
And so we're due to renegotiate the intermunicipal agreement regardless. So that is something that I am not interested in collecting a 30% fee on this as some kind of revenue stream in comparison to the labor.
There is a resident trying to log
No,
in.
it's not.
Zoom is on.
Oh, so,
I mean, Gene's on Zoom.
oh,
It's not on live, it's not live,
it's not on.
or Facebook Live is not on.
Right, but if a resident will log in. it will-
I just gotta watch for it. I haven't seen anyone.
It
How are
seems
we
like-
funding the 90,000?
You appropriated it
But tell
We-
me,
at town meeting.
Yeah. One of the,
There was
Yeah.
a comment made at school committee meeting that there was money taken from
I saw that.
sidewalk grants to
Mhm.
pay this.
To settle the water.
No.
Mhm, I didn't think so.
No, so
So-
that was, so there's appropriations at town meeting, I'm trying to remember. We used old capital. That was unexpended capital. It was one of those, and I forget exactly which, we paid for a couple of things with old capital.
Yeah,
I forget exactly which went to where, but there was Ritter ADA upgrades that had been placed on, right, that had
yes.
been placed on hold
yes.
due to the building.
No.
And that if we were to go forward with doing those ADA upgrades, would have been woefully inadequate.
Yeah.
So it was about taking those funds where they were needed immediately to pay that expense. And if and when ADA upgrades are going to occur at Ritter, whether part of a larger, rolled into the larger building project or some kind of renovation.
So when we collect the 90,000 reimbursement from the water bills, where's that funding going back to?
So that's going back to the water enterprise account. And the intent is that we start to generate a surplus that once the account is stable, that we can deliver that surplus back to the general fund.
So to confirm for the public,
For the-
90K did not come out of The school committee budget.
Nothing-
Okay.
No, it was, they were talking, no, they were
They-
saying it was about the ADA. They were talking about the right thing.
Yeah,
They were
but
talking
that
about,
statement was made, so just to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah.
Did not come out of,
it did not come out of their budget. It came out from Ritter.
that makes sense.
Thank you.
All right. Any other?
Now, I can't promise that I'm gonna be here forever,
Don't say that.
but the water enterprise account is gonna take a little while to build back up, okay? So people in this room need to remember that,
They get hit the 30% increase.
right,
So
that 90,000 needs to go back.
I don't understand why it's gonna take a while if we're, I assume it was depleted because we never billed the customers for us to pay the bill.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that there's enough funds in there for the revolving account to operate. And it will start to generate a surplus, but it'll take time for that surplus to reach the 90,000.
Why? It's in-
Didn't we not budget 50,000 a year?
Yeah, and we need to adjust that budget because that's too low.
But we should be being reimbursed. It should be a wash through.
It should be a wash through, but we have to catch up and pay back.
But
The
we should have
enterprise.
been 50,000 in the account. How much was it behind?
No, because 50,000 would not have, so the account itself was not appropriately budgeted at 50,000. The water enterprise for a year runs much higher than 50,000.
120. to see-
I'd have to look at the,
Yeah.
But I guess where Jay and I are, you're gonna send the water bill for entire year over the next week. Will people pay? Won't that be total to the bill that we just paid?
that will go into the water enterprise fund.
Right.
Right? And then the water enterprise fund, we need to have sufficient funds in there to pay the remainder of the bills that we need to pay. I don't know what collections are gonna look like on these, right? I think we just need to wait to see how the surplus grows. Right now, I have bills going out. I don't have any money coming in.
Is there a date on the bill of when these things need to be paid?
Yeah,
Should be 30 days.
I would imagine.
30 days for like 6-7 months worth of water.
It's usually sent in for
Well,
quarters.
Tri-Town is a big one.
Right.
Correct.
But they're not gonna get,
Right,
because they're getting such a giant bill, because they haven't paid any water, it's not like they paid, that's what not paying my water.
Well,
They
but-
don't get it.
Right.
Tri-Town
All of these bills,
is what started all this.
okay? And like Tri-Town is a commercial
right.
entity, so they have this cost built into their plan on how they charge their.
Yeah, it's
their
just not a
revenue.
guarantee they're gonna.
Right, so Tri-Town is the largest, right, for sure, and I think would have the most fiscal solvency, right? But there are a couple small ones, so we'll just continue to monitor it and hopefully get out of the water billing business.
So you keep us updated.
I will.
on where we are with.
I will.
I would take the
Right.
approach Unitil takes. If I have $1,000 this month on it, I charge you. And let's just get hold on.
Well,
this.
that's why there was a talk about whether it was appropriate or fair to bill this entire
I know the
bill.
money is
That's right.
I mean-
And that's what we determined.
Yeah, we're not a
Charity
charity.
bills.
Right.
I'm just municipality.
And it's not that they haven't paid any bills in calendar 2025. They did pay bills in calendar 2025. They were just older bills.
Okay, any other topics?
No.
Okay, I do now get a ding when someone is in the room, so. Which I usually can't do because,
All right.
all right, so the next thing on is the calendar.
Should I just stay here?
You can just stay there. So there's two pieces of paper that I handed out, that maybe after Stephanie, if you want to see it. I did want to start with, let's just have the conversation on Monty Tech so that, Stephanie Quinn doesn't need to stay here all night. But we did ask, when I talked to Jen about this calendar, it was like Thanksgiving week. or
Yeah, I
something
was
like
gonna
that.
say, yeah.
One of the things in my mind is Monty Tech comes in after they've approved the budget, and it was always just kind of like, here's your bill, right? So I think it makes sense to bring them in as early as possible. It's not during a phase of the schedule where we're like fighting for time and we're having midnight meetings and everything else. So I have asked that they come in earlier during the time. I also want to say that as it relates to Monty Tech, my own personal opinion is that some of the towns like Lunenburg, Holden, Ashby, there's some of these smaller towns that are really fighting with budget issues right now. Some of the bigger cities basically don't get much of a bill associated on a per pupil charge associated with going to Monty Tech. So the smaller towns kind of pay an unfair share of that, right? We can argue if it's fair or unfair or whatever, but disproportional per student. So I do kind of want, Stephanie, maybe you to engage with us as you're kind of thinking about that. Maybe just like we've asked our own Lunenburg public school system to cut back on some initiatives and make some austerity measures, as they've called them, maybe Monty Tech needs to kind of do some of the same. And I am a huge proponent of the vocational schools. I wish we had more vocational schools. I do not think enough students go into the vocations and are kind of pushed into this, college at all costs kind of career path, when it's probably better for them to go into a vocational education system. That's not what this is about. It's really just about that. I don't know what happens at the meetings. You probably don't either. I do know that Lunenburg rep didn't even go to at least last year's budget meeting to vote on it. But I think the smaller towns need to kind of get together and maybe push against, the Fitchburgs and the bigger cities and stuff like that. So I kind of want this early engagement with Monty Tech. I think they do a great job in presenting their budget, understanding Chapter 70, being able to report on it. They've done great things with their busing situations and their contracts. So I think they're great at, managing the fiscal, constraints of the school. I'm not by saying that anyway, but I would like to have that conversation before they go and vote on it. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to bring them up. So that's the one conversation I was hoping to have with you, and then in a couple of weeks with Monty.
I'd love to add something to this conversation.
Anna,
Yeah, but go ahead.
So I'm not wrong. I believe last year when they came, I believe the amount that they asked Bloomberg to pay is our foundation money. And that's set by the state. So
That's only part of it.
I do believe that it's not just about them reducing. A lot of the contributions have to do with how the state sets the foundation budget. And I don't know total, but I recall being close to like our foundation required contribution is X, and their number is very low. So if they reduce what they're doing, and it could be that our bill is the same because it's based on our foundation. So I don't recall everything, and it was my first time getting to it a little bit, but
it is a confusing formula. I will definitely say that. But I do think when you look above the foundation, I think it is like the Lunenburgs and the Holdens and some of those towns that
every town has a different foundation number.
We get disproportionately billed per student, is my point. And I think what should be happening is that there should be a solve for function saying that whatever we do with all this foundation budget and these whiz-bang spreadsheets that no one makes sense to no one, Lunenburg's Monty Tech assessment year to next year should be aligned with Lunenburg public schools. And it shouldn't be that, we pumped it through the formula and you're 10% higher this year than last year. That's my only point. And I think that discussion needs to start occurring. And I do think that some of the smaller towns need to start balancing town schools, vocational schools, which are kind of three different kind of things that get managed here in such a way. So I'm not trying, and again, I'm not trying to push back against Monty Tech. I just want to have that discussion prior to to their budget hearing than just after it and saying, because then it's just, here's a bill, right? So that's kind of so that's my ask. But I do welcome the opinions of everyone.
I think this discussion shows that we don't really have great clarity on how that number is calculated, how much of that comes from state mandate versus what they come up with. So you can get an understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
Better understanding what can be.
And we had questions last year, hard questions that he didn't answer, one couldn't answer because the money was already budgeted. Right?
I think they answered questions. I think,
But like
you
the
know,
the just like
Yeah,
between the towns and
yeah,
it was too late. I agree.
so
I like this idea a
And
lot.
based
Chris.
also on student population, how many we have going there?
that is part of it. Yep.
But it's also based on the wealth of the town.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
sure.
and so we have, what, 100 kids, I think, or 99?
Yeah, I would say at least 90, I thought.
It was around
And we
90.
get charged per kid,
101.
based on our
101.
charge per kid. And
That's a lot.
Pittsburgh has way more kids, but they get charged
They're in the
less per kid.
300s.
300, so yeah, so that's how it works. It's,
Also, it's a public school in their city. Isn't there a discount for that? No,
I don't think so, no.
or it's just an admission?
It's all
Like a
like Anna said, it's all driven by a formula,
Yeah.
but over the foundation, they can,
they love formulas in Boston.
I think the only thing that I want to add is that I'm working on the revenue estimate, and we are going to have a firm number on Monday for where we are right now. But I estimate our revenue funds available for appropriation beyond what we had last year at being just over 1.3 million total to spread across all departments. And Monty Tech represents a 3% of our total operating budget. So that would be based on that kind of formula breakdown that Monty Tech, we would be prepared with $39,000 of additional appropriation for FY27. I would imagine that that number is far south of what you may be considering or hearing currently. But for you to bring back to your board that this is the revenue that we're looking at and the 3%, and that really anything more than 40,000 will have impacts to other areas of the town.
okay,
Do we have one or two reps? Just
One.
one,
You're the one.
yeah, Pittsburgh gets 3.
based on population.
Does Gardner get 3?
No. I have, there's. but-
Yeah.
Oh my.
It's a lot.
Herding cats.
It runs amazing.
Oh,
Actually.
All right. Okay, so any other, if you had any comments as well, I wanted that introduction and I wanted us to kind of work, because in my time on FinCom, we haven't really coordinated with the rep.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Our meeting was supposed to be held last night, that was to speak, so.
Great, thank you. And I think they usually vote on it in March, right?
That's my understanding, but yeah.
I went back through the minutes. Okay. All right, you're welcome to stay as long as we stay, but you're also welcome to, you can keep that if you'd like.
Do you want to keep that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
Oh,
want-
is that a
Yeah.
copy? Yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
I'm sharing with Mike.
Oh,
I'm sure you'll send some
I can. print-
digital copies.
no.
No.
No, it's in the share or the SharePoint, sorry. Okay, so the next one that was a little bit of an unknown was schools, but I've also heard maybe rumors that schools wanted an approved budget prior to you releasing a number. Is that rumor or?
I have heard a rumor that the schools want to present a true ask of the town manager for their budget that is unrelated to perhaps available revenue. That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Okay.
Beyond that.
And I had further heard, I forget where maybe, so maybe I'm just propagating rumors that they wanted to do that before you release
The preliminary,
your preliminary. Because I do think that they're way ahead of where
They
they
are-
have been in the past.
they're way ahead
years.
and very jealous.
Great job. They're doing a great job.
Well, at the last tri-county committee, didn't they kind of presented basically, this is where where we're going to be. If we want to stay exactly where we are, this is where we think we need to be. And then they also presented what we would like, if we wanted to be where we wanted education to be. So they've already kind of done that.
Yeah, they've done a lot of the work.
Very transparent.
Right, so
Very
yeah, which is great. So the question is that they're gonna come back with this number and we're gonna say, okay, your revenue is this, so you gotta figure out how to get from there to there. But we'll actually know what some of the differences, what are we, and so it's easier to make those trade-offs because what.
I will say this, if the $1.3 million of revenue is accurate, and this was assuming a level state aid. We don't know what state aid is, but I assume level state aid. I don't think that the consensus revenue hearing in December was great, indicating that we're going to be getting lots of money coming in beyond what we got last year. So if it's 1.3, and if I went back to the school's tri-board presentation and my tri-board presentation on health insurance, if we take out, if health insurance is 20%, we have $86,000 left for all increases across both town and school.
That's not a lot.
That's $86,000 for every vendor contract increase, every employment contract increase, every increase. We have
And
$86,000.
There's a lot more like electricity and all the other things that are built in that we don't have any control over. This gonna eat up most of that 86, if not all.
Especially when you're running the heat at 80 degrees in here.
Isn't it so toasty?
Okay, so.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough.
Have we heard anything from the insurance company about, is it still the 20% or have they been silent?
We will know that on January 23rd or 24th. I forget which one it is, but they announced it at MMA at the annual conference. They announce what the trust range is. So they'll give us what the trust average is. They'll give us what the highest would be, and they'll give us what the lowest would be. We won't get our specific number until about a month after. I have not been shy in meeting with our reps saying that we need that number as soon as possible, that percentage increase is devastating to the budget. And that we need, and that we need to know, we need to know what that really is so that we're not budgeting to 20% if it's 16.
Do we know where our claims are at? Monitor that.
Yeah,
Yep.
our claims are running, fairly well. I don't think that we're not gonna be like the top end of the pool. I think we should be in the average. So we don't have huge losses we're not in the like 106% and so that's good. But I mean, last year there were, for example, there was nobody that received a 0%. Nobody. So I think the lowest was like under 10%, but greater than 5%. So if your losses were running great and you're making money, you're still getting a rate increase, that's usually not the way that goes.
Okay.
That's a problem that every town and city in Massachusetts is gonna go through.
Oh, yes.
I think most towns are in the same.
The vast majority are under the same carrier. Yeah.
And I know, for example, Fitchburg self-insured, and they're also running into similar issues. I think last year they had a 3.5 million deficit on health insurance. So, I know we try to solve our own problems, which is great, but this is a problem with the state. Like the state needs to better fund the towns, period. And,
Agree.
and, instead of, I believe that, health is an important thing. I seen, in working finance, I've seen a lot of people that have terrible credit scores because they had to make an emergency visit to the ER. That's the end of their ability to ever borrow money or do anything. At the same token, we can't have the state allocate $40 billion to their health insurance and gives us the scrap of everything else. And when I say their health insurance, it means Mass Health. So, it's just really unfair the way the state is managing all of those things. And, and what's going to happen is we're going to end up putting more people in the state if the state doesn't start funding the towns appropriately. We talk a lot about, welfare corporations that subpay their employees, and then everybody else has to pick up the tab for their health insurance. Well, the state is doing a little bit of that with us, where they're not giving us, our share of the money.
And the insurance providers too. I think that last year when I was here before this body talking about the health insurance increases, what we were being told at the time was it was being largely driven by prescription drugs, right? Particularly GLP-1. That's what they were telling us. It's all this extra cost to the GLP-1s, da 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 da. Well, now I hear with meeting with the rep, there's going to be a vote that perhaps our insurance company is not going to cover GLP-1s anymore. Okay, that's fine. Then I expect not a 20% increase, right? And so I was, again, not shy in expressing the opinion. I do not want to see GLP-1s taken away and still a 20% increase with a new boogeyman to blame. And to that I got, well, there are other changing conditions. And I said, this is your flyer that you put out with the rationale. So I don't know what's going to happen at that meeting other than the collective groan is going to go across the room, but I don't.
So, Willie, did we lose camera?
Yeah, just texted Joe about it. He's saying something about image corruption or something, formatted alternate cards. She said to just.
Okay.
Do you want an audio recording or you're capturing on Zoom?
I hope I'm capturing it on Zoom. Otherwise,
Does it say recording?
Progress.
it said it earlier.
You should have a little down below.
Okay.
It's recording.
Okay.
Do we have an external microphone to your?
Yeah, but we're limited now to this. It won't be broadcast.
This is picking up audio too?
Yeah, Gene.
All right, so let me just move it as far as it can go.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Stay here.
Now you're gonna, yeah.
No,
yeah.
that. Because our minutes are also done.
Right,
by
with
that.
the recording.
But there's a recording on, are you recording this
Zoom.
on this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I digressed.
So there was no, at the state level, you think there was a big push last year and this year for additional funds to cities and towns, but you don't think that's gonna happen, at least the school?
Oh, I think that there's gonna continue to be a big push I think we're already seeing it. I think if you haven't read the MMA reports and then the action items that were suggested after that report, there is a concerted effort. I think the issue here is that twofold. One is that statewide, the revenues are not as strong, and that's not great. And they are not looking to strengthen based on the current economy, right? And two is that I think that there are certain members of the legislature who feel that we do enough and that we supply cities and towns money in other ways. And I think that the data shows that that's just not accurate. And in that report, you see that Massachusetts lags behind much of the nation in funding from the state.
Is there a chance, I know that our insurance went up to 17% at Harvard, which is crazy, but they put that kind of on the workers with higher out-of-pocket payments. They like adjusted our plans to kind of recoup some of that money.
So we are in active negotiations with the Public Employee Committee.
Yeah.
I do not see doing both a plan design change and a rate split change,
Okay.
because that would be too impactful to the employees who really they're absorbing on their percentage that same whatever X percent increase. But what we are talking about with the PEC is a plan design change.
Yeah. So I'm a union representative there, and that's kind of how we went, but it did affect some of those costs within the healthcare programs.
You know,
some more choices.
Another, as you communicate with PEC group, another way to think about this is, I mean, I think eventually the market will stabilize. Like nobody can keep paying this. The federal government cannot keep paying their own health insurance.
Right.
So at some point the market will something will crack, change, or become more stable. So knowing that, you know, maybe with the employees group, we are negotiating, you know, a 1-year contract in order to buy us time, because otherwise we make adjustments. They're either not great for the employees or not great for us, but the conditions drastically change in a couple of years, and we're going to be stuck with a contract that might be longer. So maybe with such a, you know, variable, they're so meaningful. Maybe that's also something that we can.
Yeah, I appreciate that suggestion.
Okay, so looking through the calendar, is there any comments or objections to the way it's laid out? I like having schools earlier. I like having Monty Tech earlier. I think we heard a lot of the goals and plans for each of the departments through the tri-board meetings. I am trying to find all of the presentations and getting them into our SharePoint file.
I found it.
So a group effort on that, if you know, we should be able to see each of the departments and what they asked for. I want to tie in topic D, I guess, which is maybe into this discussion as well of the potential Prop 2.5 override. So certainly it seems like schools will be seeking to make a run at an override, at least potentially. The fire chief has indicated you know, still the fourth shift. What else might be in
We have general town needs as well, beyond just the fire, the school town fire.
Because one of the things I think it's important for us maybe to go into each of these meetings with is not only looking at the budget, but start to formulate our thoughts and our recommendations and our write-ups associated with those things that might be sought for the Prop 2.5 override. So I had in my mind, maybe if we had like a kind of a sheet that we're always thinking about as we go through each of the budget presentations. And this is probably where we're going to have to focus our attention over the next couple months is not only reviewing the budget, but also our recommendations as it relates to the, you know, a Prop 2.5 or Prop 2.5 overrides, depending upon how
we'll be ready this time. More ready.
So, you know, I supported the first school budget override request. I voted for. My children show up for both town meeting and vote. And at the time, I felt like it's not a big number they're asking. It's kind of, you know, stabilize school operations. And I can see myself supporting that. And then we have the fiasco that happened, where 2/3 of that money got spent. And I have set very much with me that, for me once, shame on you, for me twice, shame on me. I don't go for the third time, so just I think that the say is 3 times, just like, no. I will not personally, not the committee, but personally, I will not support any operational override before we do the hard work of really looking at the budgets, moving things around. And on the town side, I made a few notes, so just people understand what I'm talking about. So for example, trash, the recycling, that has gone up from $150,000 a year to now like around 500,000. We need to come up with a plan for freaking recycling. We can't be putting money into recycling for that. And if it's the case, is that much? We simply don't do recycling. Or we can have a station at a DPW. If people want to do recycling, they drive to the DPW during business hours, do their recycling. And if they don't want to do that, they can pay for trash to be taken out. So I can see like a $300,000 savings on that. I've been talking about the TCP building forever. That building costs $100,000 to keep it open.
Maybe more.
I don't know if that's going to change. I know we decommissioned a part of it. And it's like, why? I like the functions that it's currently serving, but is it really worth $100,000? Maybe we get a membership for everyone who wants to do something program and go to Game On Fitchburg. It's going to be cheaper. It's just, these things of just keep wasting money. Another one that, and I know this is about shuffling money, but our ambulance receipts, we have that becomes part of free cash. And therefore, we can't use this money as part of our operational budget. And we do use the money. But now, so we have, I think when I looked, it was around $250,000 a year that it goes to free cash every year, and we use the money. But we don't use that money towards operations. But that's an operational thing. We're literally collecting money for services that we are doing. That's a quick enterprise fund or just a revolving account, just something that will allow us to use.
Receipts reserved for appropriation.
Right. Just do something, and other towns around us do that. So that's my hard work. Like I was thinking about, I was going to be talking about it, and I made this note, but it's not everything. I think we need to really think about, doing this hard work before anyone asks me, to buy for an override. And I know we're going to be talking about, you have on the agenda the capital plan. But since I'm in the rant, I'm just going to keep.
I don't mind it.
Okay, so I'm going to tie it up. So, for example, there I see, the engine 2 4x4 brush truck replacement, $335,000. 6-wheel dump truck, $401,000. Why are we using, these are big purchases, $800,000. We have a special stabilization fund. I'm using it. Yeah, so that we can take care of other things. That's one. And I'm going to go into the school side on this. I don't know what to do, because whenever I hear the schools talking about improvements or repairs to the facilities of the schools, and I'm going to, and Anthony, if you're hearing this, you're going to get an email from me with this and some other information. I just want to make a disclosure because I watched their meetings this afternoon from yesterday. We just funded a couple years ago the front door something for the Turkey Hill. Now I'm seeing here primary school entry and driveway expansion design, primary playground design, which, but it's school things. Primary school window safety film. I opened the FY25 and FY24 accelerated program repair. They do these things. There was literally doors there. So, and when I hear the school committee talk, and they were talking about it yesterday, an update to the bathroom. Basically, we have a middle school that's serving elementary schools, and the bathrooms, not just are not accessible, they're very inadequate because they're done for for middle school kids, and now we have
Little
8-year
guys.
old side there. And
Who is
even
this?
at the Turkey Hill School,
Who's in the Turkey Hill?
the elementary school, so like 8-year-old,
Like
9-year-old.
little guys. The toilets are too high, the
High
sinks
for
are
them.
too high.
They can't get up.
Yeah, no, we've been doing this for
And they don't have
14
good air
years.
either.
We've been doing this for 14 years. And there has been not been we gotta go to the state for this money. The state doesn't have any money. I just wanna say that. The state makes no money. The state takes our money away. And it makes it impossible for us to get any kind of funding. So I'm really, like, I am looking to vote for no incumbent in this next year. So just no incumbent's gonna get a vote for me. So, but we need to do the work. When I look at the list of towns and cities that got funded, it's like they get 60,000 for this. It's not huge numbers, but maybe that's an improvement to the bathroom that should not have been 14 years. I think we decommissioned TCP in 2011. And, so we gotta be willing to do this hard work. And I personally, I am clearly enraged, personally, blood pressure going up. Was given a third medication today.
Your face is not red.
That's okay, yeah. But before I support any override from anyone, we need to do this hard work. And that's where I am now. People can, I might be somewhere different, but I feel very strong about this. And
So if we
anyway.
tied all those conversations together, if you could get that on paper and start to formulate like an outline of like everything you just said, that would be good for all of us, because I think that would be something we work off of meeting to meeting. But as it relates back to the schedule is a little bit of like, we do these meetings and then at the end, like, we don't have anywhere in the schedule to have that hard discussion that I'm talking about. And I do think that, like, maybe it's another tri-board things, throughout the year here, but we're gonna need to have those hard discussions on what do we really do to try to balance this budget without an override.
I think frankly, to have a balanced budget without an override, it will result in service cuts. And that's a community decision, but I don't think you can.
We have $800,000 right here.
Yeah, that's not going to make the ends meet. So it would be a combination of service cuts and realignment in order to get the necessary funds. That's my initial kind of thoughts right now.
And based on community distrust, I don't think another prop's gonna get voted in.
Well,
I don't know.
depends on,
It's how you
Yeah,
sell it
well,
and how you,
yeah.
and what it's.
Because I'm on this side, so I have an opinion, and I'm gonna say that unless we do what Chris is
Right.
discussing
Right.
and talk about these things.
But there will be pretty dramatic service cuts. We are not, this is not paper clips and pencils. This is heads.
Well, let's see where the service cuts are.
Yeah.
So I want to say one thing. Number 22 on this list, the capital planning list, is TC Pasio tax mat abatement. I ranked that number 2 because of everything else on here. I want that building gone, and I want the Brooks House gone.
Yeah.
Because we have these buildings that are underutilized or not using it at all, that we're paying all sorts of operational costs for insurance, all this other stuff associated with it. And we're gonna go put safety film on a school to save 6 seconds of some intruder driving a truck through a window. I mean, it's silly.
and then the state could refund half of that if they felt, is that as urgent as we do.
Right, but until those buildings are sold, there is a responsibility for the town to not let a blighted property fall into like disrepair. Their house, they can't just shut the heat off and let the pipes burst,
Or torn down.
right?
They're not gonna be sold. And then,
So tear down, is that a cost to the
so
town?
the other thing that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
yet talked
There'll be a
about
cost.
is the track complex. Because there's a
Well,
contingent that wants to put in another $6 million
I have
to
a
do
comment
the
about that.
track again.
So
And
I
will
will,
say, hold on a second. My view on that, tear down TC Pasio's, move the track out of some, place where water is flowing into, and move the track up to the TC Pasio's. Like, let's make some hard decisions as
Yeah.
a town.
Also,
Before we-
running at Reggie Lewis Center,
No, I agree. Like,
stop running there.
that's an
Sorry.
operational thing in that case, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, so I agree with you. Let me tell you that. And, and the schools also have to make some, I'll mention one that I've been talking about with the school committee long before I was in this committee, because every year I send them an email, and it's something I brought up in the last tri board. We used to receive $500,000 in our settlement that was for kids that were coming to school in Lunenburg from out of district. It's down to like $100,000. And that is a school committee decision. And they need to hold responsible for that, because that extra $400,000 now is coming from funds available from the town. So these are the hard conversations that we need to have. And I am not signing up for another override without having these conversations ahead of time and a plan on how they're going to do it. One thing, Jen, that I'm going to ask you personally is, you said, service cuts and headcount. I don't want us to be talking about that, because I don't want us to be in the same place like the last superintendent was, where in the first meeting that we start talking about budget, she goes, we're going to fire 37 teachers. It was not 37 teachers, but if you so I'm a little jaded. I don't think you're trying to do that.
No.
So if we could have honest conversations about it.
It's actually, to that point, I did talk to department heads today in a late department head meeting. I was supposed to be at 11, but happened to be in court today. So I did talk to them about, if you have not updated your budget and it needs to be updated since you presented to the tri board to get that in. B, to give me a budget that has a 5% reduction across your bottom line. How that works, you figure it out with a narrative of how you can cut. I don't know if that's too much. I don't know if that's little, but I'm just trying to get the areas. And the last part of that conversation that I had with them was a homework assignment to say, I want you to think about how we talk about this, because we know that we are into potentially personnel with this kind of a cap. And I don't want this a fear factor where people start feeling some sort of way about their employment and leave. That happens. Although I think a lot of communities this year are going to be having similar conversations. So unless you're looking to get out of municipal, perhaps there's no safe spot. But I think it comes, you don't want to say, oh, we want to get rid of Joe Smith, everybody's favorite employee, unless you pass an override, or we're going to get rid of this whole section of folks. And I'm not into the threats. But I'm also very cognizant of what that does to staff. So I've asked department heads to really go home and think about, how do we talk about this publicly?
Yeah, it can't be an emotional decision.
No.
It
Yeah,
has to
and
be financial,
yeah.
fiscally competent decision.
and I put this together and it's like, oh, $700,000. You would need to fire 10 people to get
Because insurance.
yeah. But
Except that, so TCP though isn't a zero-sum game. So
I'm just, my point was that we need to do the hard work ahead of time before we talk about override, before we talk about cutting services and laying off people. And it is my request.
I think with some of those, certainly trash or recycling is a much more transactional type of conversation. But TCP, on that one, you do have service sectors that would need to go somewhere. And so it's not a reduced down to zero, and it's
in there.
So we have PAC is in there. They have 2 rooms. We have the food pantry in there. We have rec in there if we have a rec director, but there is space in there for rec. And then there is storage in there, offsite filing for paper files, as well as some town clerk storage. So storage is cheap. We can find storage elsewhere cheap. Yeah, exactly. But the relocating PAC is not cheap.
But they have $1 million.
Yeah,
Right, but that's right. So PAC moving, right, is not something that happens between now and July 1st. Shutting down TCP and shutting the doors and locking the doors and saying everybody out, that's an easy thing to say between now and July 1st, everybody out. Where do they go? And how do we ramp that up?
You know, the last superintendent said there's no way in hell we could ever do extended day in the schools, like every other town in the state does.
Right.
I know.
And then on a dime, they did it.
Yeah.
Right? So,
That's what happens when we change it.
yeah. So
No,
I
she
do
did it.
think,
She did it
no,
before
she
she
did,
left.
because she found that she could save money. As it relates to PAC, I think we need to go rent them some office space in town and just move them. Like, just keep
So
done with it.
I-
Medical studio there.
To be frank, I hear everything of what folks are saying, but let's talk about reality. I just started this talking about the finance department transitions and how all-consuming and overwhelming it is to day-to-day operations. For example, specifically, on Monday, I came in early with a plan for a 2-hour window to get the revenue budget done. That's when I had my 2-hour window. That went out the door to deal with payroll problems, went to negotiations, payroll continued throughout the day. We have a tri-board meeting on Monday. I did not expect to be in court all day yesterday. I certainly didn't expect to be called back to court today. I'm doing this by myself. I am trying to get you folks ready for a tri-board meeting. I'm very frankly, I don't know what I'm bringing to you on Monday because I have a procedure tomorrow and then I'm planning to work Saturday. I'm planning to work Sunday. I do not have the capacity to be relocating any department anywhere between now and July. I will be shocked if we can adhere to this schedule between now and May. I will be astonished because the reality is I'm not only doing this solo, which is unheard of, but also trying to cover those offices, answer questions, and fill the voids and gaps. I never have had so many questions about payroll in my life. I have 15 emails a day on payroll, solving issues, because we have a temp in who has not been trained and is making errors and we need to make corrections. We are running checks. We are running checks and checks and checks every day.
I don't want to get into like that.
But that's the
I
reality.
understand the reality. I understand the situation. You know I do. Mike, did you have something you were gonna say? You look like you were gonna.
The only thing I was gonna say is, I mean, some of this stuff, like the TC Pasio's hazmat abatement, something you said about, the field. I mean, don't we have a truckload of debt coming due that we're going to release? And then we could actually start some new projects within the town, roll some of the stuff through it.
Yeah, I mean, we have almost
Yeah.
no debt within the budget left.
Into debt. Right.
And
We
then
only have
outside
two of
debt,
that.
we are retiring a lot. That does require a debt exclusion article, though.
Mhm.
So it's similar to a Prop 2.5 override
Right.
and a vote. Sometimes that's easier to get because people see an end to something and you can borrow for some number of years.
Right, I understand. I'm just saying, like, it just seems to me, we're a lot of times trying to just pay for stuff outright, when you could roll that into another project and roll it into the debt exclusion.
Boy, are these a done deal? We are
No.
paying for this?
No,
Okay.
No.
it's just
Okay,
the capital planning.
all right. So we could just do like 1 through 4.
I would imagine, can I see that for a second?
We don't even have
The cutoff, I would imagine,
free cash.
because I am planning to use the vehicle stabilization account, actually. Heather had planned to use that previously for the first time in her last budget, but then ARPA funds were available for the trucks. So I believe we're going to land somewhere around the Adult Activity Center network upgrade,
Which I don't think we should do.
but like a few up or a few down
Yeah.
from there. That's probably where the cutoff is. Anything at the bottom third of that, bottom quarter, for sure, not funded.
Did they ask for the outdoor Wi-Fi there? Is that included in that?
There's one access point for outside. It's not a substantial. This is to get them onto the town network.
Okay,
They're not on our network.
So that makes it harder for.
Yes, communication.
I know there was
Yeah.
a supplemental ask. for
Yeah, that's like,
Outdoor Wi-Fi.
I want to say that's like
know.
under $5,000,
Yeah, but
maybe a
why
couple,
do they
like,
don't-
So I guess,
so you can play music out.
I guess back to the schedule, I think the conversations we have to have are more around this.
Mhm.
Than maybe like more detailed and, you know, that sort of thing. So because we had it through the summer, we got a kind of a head start into, and because school is gonna present earlier, you know, that's not like kind of looming over us as well as this last minute kind of thing. So, but these are the conversations I think we, the select board and the school committee, need to really start having.
So if we agree, what's the how? How are we gonna do it? Like, are we gonna put a schedule together? Are we gonna add more meetings?
Well, there's a schedule.
But an
Well, this
additional
is a schedule.
schedule for these discussions, these are discussions?
These are presentations.
I would imagine,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
but-
that at the 26th meeting, some of the tri-board, some of this is going to start to really take shape at that
Mhm.
discussion, and that the tri-board may decide from there, like where to go from there. But I would imagine this is going to start to take shape at
Yeah.
on the 26th.
Okay, and maybe we need additional tri-board meetings throughout
right,
the.
Right,
budget
that's what I'm
season.
saying. Like,
Right.
I
Just
don't
come
think we're gonna
together.
do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Because this isn't a finance, we don't have, I mean, the select board has to be supportive of this, and if the school, if part of this is a school thing, they need to be involved, not just us. I just wanted to say, I do really appreciate you talking to your people about thinking about what the future holds and how do we handle this and whatever. Because I think the other thing is we need, when this all shakes out, whatever it is, whether we are able to cut money or whatever we're able to do, we're going to have to make decisions quicker. That's always the case. And if they're thinking ahead, but okay, what if, option A, option B, option C, then if they have plans, you guys can then come back and say, okay, we can make, with the, how this is now playing out, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're not going to have. And well thought out rather than, oh my God, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes doing an Excel spreadsheet to figure it out. Think about it ahead of time, because I think it's, and there's going to be a lot of different proposals, but I think ultimately, if they think it through ahead of time, they can, each department, including the school department, can make better decisions if they think about it now rather than in March.
Right, I think, certainly a larger department that has some high-paid staff, that's facing a retirement, that decision there is very easy for that department head to say, okay, we're not going to fill this. Smaller departments, very small staff, those become harder.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that we're taking 5% from everybody or it doesn't mean we're taking any percent from anybody, right? It's just outlining where there might be some.
One other question I had is stormwater gonna come forward with this enterprise fund? Because
As
I'm kind
I,
of against that one.
So-
you know.
as I understand, Stormwater Task Force is meeting tonight.
Yeah.
With the consultant for the first time. I would be very surprised if they were ready for the May town meeting. But I don't know what that conversation is going to yield tonight. I would just say that I'd be surprised.
I just think it's an inefficient way of adding basically another tax, versus just put it in the operational budget and deal with it then. I'm not a proponent of it, so, and I don't know the formulas either. Because I think if you're someone that's getting stormwater on your property, I don't think you should be paying into the stormwater enterprise fund. And I don't think they've thought about that at all. Just wanna.
Yeah, this is a totally new consultant that they've used before, different analysis, yeah.
We could talk about the capital planning.
Sure,
Okay, is that the item on the agenda now?
it is. There's 5 items on the agenda, we can hit them in any we want,
Okay,
or, yeah, this.
so I have receipts. I watched the capital finance committee meeting, I watched the school committee meeting. And there seems to be a lot of conversations about financial planning that's happening that, this body here is the body that makes advises the town on some of these things. And I'm not happy about that because I think those conversations need to happen here because that's our role. I am not crazy about, capital planning. Now there's this proposal that's going around that it's not capital planning, but it's being led by capital planning. The design of the turf. And
It's not being led by.
well, it's being led by Peter, who's only function in official function in town is capital planning. And I understand he's working on things, but what I heard yesterday is, well, if we get this money now, then there's a chance that we're gonna get, we can have a fall town meeting where we can do a non-excluded debt.
I don't think that that's gonna be, I don't think that it's.
I
too high
understand,
yet.
but my point being, these conversations that are very pertinent to this body are not happening with this body and these conversations, and I don't know where they're happening, but that $200,000 is not part of this. Where's that money for the design is coming from? Where's that request? Is that so?
It would be a standalone warrant article that you would consider, and
And you're gonna use free cash for that,
that would be free cash.
which is we mostly use for capital planning.
So free cash is used for a number of things, but yes.
Most of our capital,
Majority is.
say it again?
Historically,
Majority
capital
of
plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Free
Yeah.
cash is funded.
Yeah, so,
I think that if I'm not wrong, the only reason that this didn't go through the full normal capital planning cycle is because the folks were not in place for design, the engineers had not weighed in time for this to come before the capital planning committee.
we just my point is, we gotta have a vetting process for these standalones. Is either standalone and these conversations are happening with the finance committee.
Well, it's gonna happen with the finance.
If I may just finish. And that plan is happening here, or they're going through the capital plan. That's what we need to have. Furthermore, as related to capital planning, we need to start pushing back. I know the schools are gonna say they don't have the time to engage with the SBA because, it's not a lot of money, but like all the towns, there was like millions of dollars given to school districts to do minor repairs, 60,000, 30,000, 100,000. Why aren't we putting these items through the MSBA? They need to figure out, this is the hard work, because every money that we're paying in full, we're not using for other needed projects. So I would hope that, the capital plan pushes back and say, did you submit the request to the MSBA? You got to be a registered person with them, be an official representative, and it's really not that hard.
I do think the schools is living off of what we tried to do last year and got pushed into this year. We're on our third facility director or something since John Londa, and no one writes anything down. It's all in everyone's heads and their notes. There's no archiving of these things. So he's going back through each of the schools again to determine what the needs are after the.
I hear, but these items we need to be reaching out to the MSBA. The application is open in January at some point. And we need to go to the state to get some of the money that we pay in taxes back to the town.
So this is the ranked list of priorities as seen by 5 people in town.
I understand.
Being the representative.
Right, I understand.
But hold on, what's not on here is the various funding sources.
Mhm.
And if we think that one of the funding sources for one of these things could be a grant through the SBA.
MSBA.
Then we should identify that, right? The grants are always something that is a little bit forgotten through the process, in my opinion.
And lastly, as regarding to capital planning, I think it was around 2011 based on our borrowing history. But we did do a borrowing, and this was for trucks and different things, and that might have been where the special stabilization fund was created after that. But
Yeah.
maybe,
I think you're right.
maybe, like with these other projects coming up, like, and I get it, like if you're gonna build a field at the turf, and I agree with, I'm not a civil engineer, but what you said about the location of that field makes a lot of sense. If we're going to do that, if we need a few other smaller projects, we can wrap that up and do it as one excluded, much shorter term versus trying to squeeze, 200,000 here and then another $4 million of, regular debt that now we are having to fund it and pay from our operating budget. So we need some financial planning around these things to come up with a plan. And that's the kind of hard work that I think we need to do.
I agree.
And not think that, I don't want to do, it's hard to do an excluded debt, but that's what we have to do. We have passed it. We have passed excluded debt for those purchases around 2011. We have passed excluded debt for the pavement management plan. It's a much easier sell to the public to say, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to borrow money. We're going to solve these problems because that was the pavement management plan. And then we're going to be in this position versus trying to squeeze another project out of our operating budget that it's very thin.
We did it for the Saliba property, right?
We did it for the Saliba property,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we need to be able to have these, more than talking about a specific budget, or it's gonna forever be with me, the name tag for the libraries. We need to be able to have long-term, wholesome conversations about our financial needs, where our fundings are, where our resources are, and march towards that.
And I do think that, I think Jen agrees with you on that. She's just, as she said, she
Underwater.
is a little bit underwater.
But I think
I do agree with you.
I think that too, as I understand, the capital planning committee has said that, the focus now was to get through the FY 27 request, right? But then you guys were gonna come back and look at the out years with more scrutiny after, kind of before the fall, but after this time period, because I
That's the
think,
goal for last year.
right.
I was gonna say,
So,
that, thank you.
but I think it's actually got some legs. And I think that what happens is when people submit their capital plans, everybody says, well, this year is reality, next year is kind of reality. And then there's like some multi-million dollar thing that's always on years 3, 4, 5 that just gets kicked, right?
I think some of them are much better though.
And so, right, but it's a wish, it's sometimes a wish list. I think it's not really year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 are not really your capital plan, it's your capital request. So I think with that work, this year would be really developing what is the plan for the out years.
Yeah, our motto was kind of, let's make the capital planning committee a planning committee, not the capital ranking committee, which is what it has been.
Correct, and I absolutely want the capital planning committee's advice on funding, and that's.
So where is your ranking as related to this?
So I will say that I am overall satisfied with the ranking done by the capital planning committee. I generally agree with the priorities. And then it's going to come down to what do I have available for funding to make that list. And until I know how much money we have, I can't really rank it. Some of the things that we talked about is, again, like last year, you might recall that there was a jump in the list because maybe a couple spots where we jumped where there was only so much money to go around, and rather than do a big project, skip over that one and pick up a few below. That may happen again. Remains to be seen. I did tell capital planning I would come back to them once I had the funding source and share my thoughts and engage again. But overall, I've been, I think, at I've been at every one of the capital planning committee meetings and I have general agreement around their funding. I mean, their prioritization.
Yeah, and I think we're also very lucky, and I know that, we're thinking that we're not talking about it here in the finance committee, but we have Chris, who's representing us at this capital planning committee. And we have this opportunity to have these discussions with you because I sat in on 1 or 2 meetings when Chris was out. And a lot of discussion and thought goes into these things that we don't see. We just see like these dollars. So I think it's a good opportunity for Chris to even like come to this meeting and explain those things out. Because I don't have time to watch like 20 different types of committee meetings every month.
One of the things that Chris asked happens for this committee between the ranked order and having those capital presentations to you is that there's a kind of a template or format that everything will have the same view. So I have Kara in my office. If anybody's looked at Bill's submission, where it's very GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association friendly. It lays out the justification of the project, all sorts of different rationale, and I have her taking everybody's and putting them into Bill's style.
You're gonna get a prestigious budget
Yeah.
award or whatever it's called.
And oftentimes we have to.
One step at a time.
Oftentimes we have to do these small things so that these people feel like they're valued in the town. And that's really important for residents and also departments, that they are heard and valued. So to see something small get done and they have that feeling of, they listen to me, I have this small thing, even if it's not a huge thing, we have to kind of spread it out. I agree with the rankings.
Well, I'm gonna say one thing, the primary school design playground, 30,000 for that.
Mhm.
When you decide how much money you want to spend on the playground, you call any playground company and they will do the design based on the space and the money you have available. I find this to be a waste of money. And I did go through Marshall. I learned a lot on that. So I actually know that is the case. So once you decide I'm going to spend $200,000 in the playground, $300,000 in the playground, these companies, they're, whatever they are by the state, that you can just get a quote, they're approved by the state.
Oh, on the state bid list.
Right. You can get them, you say, they're approved by the state.
You can't generally.
They have the pieces saying this
Yeah,
is.
so for construction, so I think what you're suggesting is just go for construction. Go for construction. And so.
Waste of money.
So in order to go for construction, you need to put out an IFB. And if you don't have the technical specifications that you get from the design and engineering, I don't know how you would put out that IFB.
So I will give you information because I unfortunately learned a lot of things that I've never probably use it again. So for projects under $1 million, you don't have to do a construction. I believe the market might be actually 1.5 million.
No. You need to go through procurement for anything over 50,000 for construction.
So there is a type of project. I think the number is 1.5 that you can.
You might be talking about whether you need an OPM or not. And you need an OPM above a threshold, but I'm happy to refer you to the procurement charts so you can see, but you do need to procure over $50,000 for construction. You do not have to procure design and engineering. That's exempt for procurement. You can just pick a designer. But the difficulty is if you do not have the scope of a project, how do you put out an IFB for what the construction is going to be? I know you understand.
You know what? I did the IFB for several of the Marshall projects. I'll tell you how.
But you haven't done construction. You've done design.
I did because the IFB it was for the design during construction. It was a 2-part.
Right, but can I just
finish?
We never put out an IFB for construction of that. So that's a different project.
Can I just finish? I think there are other ways to do it where, and I'll find a few.
Yeah,
and I'll send
if you want to research it, I'm happy to look at that. But I don't
feel it would be something like design and construct a playground. Please allow me to finish.
I'm just breathing.
Okay, they'll serve the elementary school children up to this age with a budget of X. That can be. There's different ways to do these.
I would like to see a successful project that had a bid put out in that way, I think.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's
because you
just-
can do, you can do design and build.
You can do them together. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that I would like to see that in a,
And that's what I'm
Specific
saying,
example.
make it a design and build IFB versus let's spend money on design. It's, anyway.
All right, we can revisit it when we go over the capital plan. Go ahead. Yeah.
Is this a new playground or replacement playground? What's the,
It's a new playground.
taking out the
No.
playground that's there.
so it's a replacement?
It's that playground, as I understand, is a couple things, issues with it, but the biggest is that it's oversized for the age of the kids.
Yeah,
And that's, and
so there's kind of two things going on, and at one point, these two projects work together, so the real issue is the entry
Right.
and exit of that facility. You sometimes can't get emergency vehicles down that driveway when people are parked in the wrong spots and everything, so as in a normal Lunenburg project, the parking and access was not properly designed when it was built. So I think that kind of goes first. And then the playground itself may be impacted by that. So you kind of need the driveway one first, then the location of the playground would be determined, and they would design one that is an inclusive playground, one, we don't have one in town, and then two is that it would be more age appropriate. Now, I don't know why they put in a playground that wasn't.
yeah, it's not.
to begin with, but-
So Jen, with them relinquishing that park
So
back to the town.
they didn't officially do that last night, even though they said they did. That still needs town meeting vote. Yeah, I was like.
So, so the funds that they're gonna save there, that they're putting into, if that happens,
Kids
Kid-
Kingdom.
Kids can.
yeah, can that be allocated back to like maybe?
I don't think that they're saving a whole heck of a lot of
Yeah, we've
funds.
been doing.
Yeah,
Chris,
Money.
Well, I don't know what the maintenance schedule is.
It's just they're right now taking care of, I think, trash and cleanup and we are taking care of repair.
So we're really just doing it anyway.
Yeah, it's
All right.
yeah, there's,
Thanks,
but
Jen, for
that
clarifying
still
that.
does need a town meeting vote.
Okay.
It didn't, I think some members of the school committee thought it happened last night.
I was like, did that happen?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
Thank you.
Well, just on the playground, if you're gonna move the driveway and stuff, and the playground comes afterwards, how do you put the two together? Because once you move, you don't know what's gonna happen.
I think
once
they'll
you
be
move
done,
it.
first driveway expansion.
Design,
so
isn't it design full?
Design, and then the playground design would come. I mean, there is,
The
Probably a lot
construction
of
may
things.
have to occur in tandem. Is that what you're getting at, construction?
Well, until you know where the driveway is actually gonna end up, how you
Right.
plan for a playground.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
they know that, and we had that discussion. They would do it sequentially like that.
It's been like that since the beginning. That
Was
the
there any
access,
thought
the
decided
access.
to, like doing that in one of the playgrounds versus doing it in the school? I mean, how many playgrounds do we have? Is there one in every school?
Well, I mean, the
Is it one in
primary
every
school would
park?
typically have a playground for recess. So,
I had Foursquare on Blacktop.
And I say, I assume that
Capital.
was it.
No, Marlboro Public.
I don't even think we had that.
I don't know, I do think that playground is pretty clear.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, it's used even on weekends when they have a lot of soccer stuff, and then the playground is either the siblings or other kids are there. I don't know who they are. A lot of siblings probably are just there having a great time. So
Mm.
it's a well-used thing, but I haven't been there in a few years, but my memory is that. So is the goal is they're gonna be widening the road going in or making it go
I think-
around the building or?
Oh, I think that's part of the design.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be wide.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, I mean, I don't know if you've gone there on Saturday soccer days, I mean, people park on top of the no parking signs.
Yeah.
On both sides, and you can barely get through with it.
We have a one of our friends, we had to pick up their daughter when she was there. She's now in middle school now, but back in those days, had a little bus with her name on it, so that they would know it was it. But it was like, okay, can you do it, Tom? Oh, God, all right, I'll do it. But it was a hassle because it's signs and some buses and there's some, one of the teachers, go this, oh, God.
We just generate revenue with the parking tickets, so.
Right.
Issued by the police department.
It's a tough thing. And you figure that it was built, what, 20 plus years ago, so it wasn't like cars weren't around and all those things, but like anything else, when someone designs something, there's always something that's not perfect.
Especially in public.
We had, where I worked, we built a new parking lot for our headquarters. And we had these great, because we wanted to make it look nice, because it was in the center of Fitchburg, we wanted to really bring up the area. And people were complaining, like, as soon as we finished it all up, and we thought it was a beautiful thing. And they're going, we can't get around, because like bigger sized trucks couldn't go around the corners, didn't have the turn radius, wasn't perfect. And we had hired a company to do it, and so we had to like do it the second time. It's not, it just happens. So I think it's a good thing that after 25 years, we're going to finally get that fixed.
All right, so in the SharePoint is also.
Can I just, my last,
So in the SharePoint is also the presentation for, if anyone wants.
Is it SharePoint?
In the SharePoint, in the budgets section under this fiscal year, cycle going in for capital planning, and did find all of those presentations.
Oh.
Sorry.
My last comment about these projects here, I know we don't have to go follow a competitive process for design, but I always find it healthier to do it. Like when you're talking about a $200,000 fabric salt shed for anti-ice chemicals and blah, blah, like we should go through a competitive process, not just get an estimate. I know we don't have to, but it's pretty big ticket. And, including the one that Peter was talking about for the turf, again, we got an estimate and yesterday he said, oh, it doesn't have to be a competitive process. I think it should be, like, it doesn't have to, but probably would be best if we do.
They've had a number of engineering firms, I think, out in the quote process. I think they've had 3.
I wouldn't know because it hasn't been brought to this committee yet.
I know I was CC'd on meetups that there were multiple engineers that were going out to look. I mean, it depends, right? I think sometimes there are reasons why you want to use a specific design and engineering firm and you want to go to that firm, whether it's because of their expertise or your past experience with them, or they have something else going on in the town. And then there's other times that you're absolutely right. You want the market to dictate.
Yeah, especially what I've learned is that when you make it a competitive process, you end up learning from the bids of other companies that you can then make it a part of, your final contract. And, you learn new things. And
sometimes the bids come in better in a competitive process. Sometimes they come in worse in a competitive process. So it's all, there's not I don't think a bright line rule here that is the ultimate best practice. You can disagree.
I'll disagree with you because.
And just remember the other thing, it's not just the track replacement, it's also that retaining.
The wall.
So.
The Tri-Town meeting on Monday, there is a preliminary fiscal year 27 budget plan discussion. So that's one of the agenda items under the new business. Would that be a good time that we I won't be there, but.
I won't be there either.
Oh, okay, so.
Who will be there?
I'll be there.
You'll be there.
When is it?
Monday
Okay.
at the school.
Can we bring up some of these things that we talked about today, some of the things you brought up or others that,
Monday.
Board?
Monday, yeah.
Is it against town bylaws for Anna to put all this into like some type of spreadsheet?
No, you've just
Spreadsheet?
Or whatever you do.
You've discussed it. You've discussed it. You've shared it. Like it's
Okay.
yeah. No, there's no
You
issue.
can't deliberate.
Okay.
Yeah, deliberation. Just to be deliberation. If Anna sent, I'm just going to pick on you because we were talking about you. So if Anna sent an email that said my feelings on this
Okay.
topic, that is a matter that's under the jurisdiction of the finance committee are as follows. And nobody else responds to that email, that's still a violation.
Okay.
If Anna says, my opinion on something that's totally unrelated and has no jurisdiction of the finance committee, maybe a non-monetary Board of Health matter, did everybody see this? If it's not a jurisdiction under your body, that's not an issue. It's the definition of deliberate is about sharing your opinion with a quorum.
But I think if we say, in this upcoming meeting, we're gonna be talking about this topic.
Right.
Here is the material that
From
we're
the
gonna
last-
bring
Yeah,
into the discussion, and no one comments on it and starts a discussion on it, we're fine.
Yeah.
That's how we. that's
Okay,
how
so she can, because I want to represent what you've said here, because you have a lot of really good points.
we- And like 3 of you can get together and have the discussion.
Right,
So.
yeah, so.
Right.
If, like, the three of you,
but what you can't do is 3 of you can't get together and have a discussion, and then any one of you in a further discussion, go have that discussion with another member.
But she can share
Oh,
what
yeah.
she's written down.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I
Yes,
just-
that's a no,
Well,
that's a no-brainer.
that blew that.
that's, I think some,
Distributed from.
a couple.
Absolutely.
Deliberate on.
Okay. Because I don't remember everything that you said, but you have a lot of good points.
Supposedly it's gonna be recorded.
I think so, we're gonna be at the school, but,
No,
oh,
this,
oh, this.
yeah,
Anything else on capital?
Just one other thing, what was was any decision made regarding, there was talk about the police cruisers going back to gas versus hybrid?
Yeah, at least one of them was going back to gas.
Alternate, so like, they, 1-1,
Yeah, I
was-
don't agree with that.
well,
It's
you just all gas,
no hybrid.
or all hybrid?
Gas,
I would go all gas.
yeah.
Why?
We're gonna have a new charging station.
Why? Because it's
Schools.
$25,000 when the batteries fail.
Yeah.
And the batteries are failing within like 4 or 5 years.
Who says that?
yeah.
It happened to 2 of them,
That's not what I'm seeing at all.
it happened to 2 of the cruisers, back to back,
Aren't they?
thankfully, they were within
Yeah.
months, I think.
Then we're down with
We're-
cruiser if it fails.
Yeah, I just disagree. Both former police chiefs said the hybrids save gas and they save wear and tear. And we're a green community and a sustainable community. And, you know, because we had an issue with 1 or 2 vehicles.
There's
Doesn't mean
nothing
it's
green
wrong.
about an electric vehicle.
It's not electric, it's hybrid. It's
There's
gas
nothing
electric.
green about the
Hybrid.
electric. You're ripping,
We're saving gas.
but you're
they
ripping
do a lot of
rare
idle-
minerals out to form batteries.
Well, you rip minerals out to build anything.
But additionally, if they're breaking down, how are we going to explain to somebody that we can't get there because
Everything
our
breaks down.
vehicle's down?
Everything breaks down sooner or later.
Right.
All vehicles,
What's
But-
the overall
equipment,
longevity?
buildings,
Right, yeah.
boiler
what's the
systems,
longevity
everything.
Hybrid
I
compared
think
to
we do
gas.
4 years. So
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
good, and the
Police
vehicles under a 5-year.
vehicles end up typically being 4 to 5 years because of the high wear and tear on the vehicles. And so that does make them questionably, sometimes an operational item, sometimes treated as an operational expense, sometimes treated as a capital expense. But specifically to the hybrid, I think it was a coupling of the batteries and also, as I understand, the officers, their operation of the vehicles, I think is different.
Are there charging
I-
stations
I
at the
have-
police department?
Hybrid.
No, they're hybrid.
Hybrids, they're not
But
electric.
They're not,
So when do
Yeah.
they, so.
it's the idling that they have it's the
Yeah,
idling.
Low speed, they run off
Yeah.
battery when they're parked. They run off battery.
Is there an alternate? I mean, we have all Ford hybrids, right? They don't
Yeah,
exactly. have
Ford
the-
Police Interceptor
Mhm.
hybrids.
Yeah, they don't have the best track record.
Mhm.
in the-
Who's saying that?
No, I mean, the Ford F-150 hybrid, which is the same system as
Mhm.
this cruiser, had a Consumer Reports score of 2 out of 100. It,
I
it,
I
it,
haven't seen that.
it managed to score
I
the
have-
lowest of any vehicle ever. So,
Mike could share
I-
that information to us, and we just can't deliver it.
no, and I know this because the guy I worked with had one.
Yeah.
And, he sued Ford, take it back, it was so bad.
I have hybrids in my fleet. I have a 2023 F-150 hybrid and 2025 Ford Explorer hybrid, hybrid Escape hybrids, Toyota Prius hybrids. And I haven't had any issues with them.
Prius.
But is it a different wear and tear from the police department to the, are you sewer, DPW?
Water.
Electric
Water?
utility.
Electric, okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Both of these are take-home vehicles, and put mileage on it. But even the police department in my town, which has a lot more vehicles than we do here, I haven't heard of them having any issues with hybrids. And I asked the Ford dealer that I deal with if they've had an issue, and they haven't seen it.
Talk to,
Yeah,
dialogue with Jeff.
And the vehicle
Yeah.
has a 5-year, 100,000 miles.
Yeah,
Talk
so
to Jeff.
Chief Thibodeau is very approachable. I actually got a tour of the public safety building, to see some of these issues and stuff. So, you know, if anyone wants a tour, I think he and Chief Sullivan are willing to do that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, if anybody wants a kick the tires on any of these things, go out and look, you know, feel free to email the departments that requested them and just say, I really want to look at that old 6-wheel dump you have.
From 1984, is that when it's from? Is that right? When was it?
No,
What year? When
that's
was
a
that?
fire.
Oh,
That's fire, brush truck.
That's a truck, 1984.
I was 3.
That's crazy.
I didn't trucks last.
They do.
An extension of the whole DPW thing, he was talking before about pulling the snow service back into town, less contract. Did we do that? Because I see like primarily DPW trucks now doing the plowing.
It's a combination still, that we have our staff driving our own trucks and we have contractors driving our trucks and we have contractors driving their own vehicles. We actually had a complaint that we allowed somebody from New Hampshire to be plowing our roads today. Because they had New Hampshire plates on their vehicle that was plowing.
Oh, no. The roads are great comparatively. So.
Okay. All right, anything else on those topics? All right, so the other topics we had were town meeting discussion. We've actually had since town meeting.
No, we have not.
Yes. Anna, you want to put that on?
Yeah, so anyway, I know you weren't here for the hearing, and which was very unfortunate. You know, we did get an email from a resident and I think she spoke publicly.
Yep,
at this
I've talked to her.
I feel like there were. I wasn't necessarily satisfied with all the answers that we got prior to town meeting. I just didn't have enough information. I do feel like some of the, you know, I'll give you an example. The money that we are assigning to Chris for the estimator, right? And that was a pullback from a capital planning. I think operationally speaking, I think we need to look at all our capital plan monies and make a list of what we're going to pursue or not, and, you know, make a move generally.
We have that.
And I don't like piecemealing these things because it feels like, you know, creating too many purses of money that it's not my favorite. Honestly, I would have preferred if Chris had, personally speaking, if Chris had that as part of his operational budget, as Bill has it as part of his operational budget.
I would agree that I would prefer things to be in the operational budget, but we do not have the capacity to be adding things to the operational budget. I mean,
we just had the 50,000 that we assigned. So anyway, as regarding to town meeting, by the time it got to us, a lot of these decisions, you know, about what to do financially and so forth had already happened. And, you know, and I supported those things. I'm just hoping that as we approach the many more town meetings you're going to have with us, we're going to have these discussions prior to some of these things being finalized by you, so that we can have an input, because that's our role versus, I don't think our role is to just rubber stamp or knock something, is to participate on that. And I could go on into other things, you know, like the paying the water bill. Perhaps we could have used the stabilization fund that the town moderator didn't allow us to do.
I thought Mr. Bowen's suggestion was great on that, actually.
Right, but you know, if you would have come, if we had that conversation with this committee prior to that meeting, we might have got there. So what I'm hoping is some of these things are happening, these conversations are happening ahead of decisions being made. And when it comes to us, it's not just rubber stamp something or not.
So I think communication on all sides could be better. And I think that one of the things that I would be asking for specifically from Finance Committee, if there is something that you want a presentation on, if you want somebody particularly to come, if there's something that you want to engage around, well, it may be something that's very intuitive to you and you're saying, well, of course the town manager is going to blah, blah, blah. Don't make that assumption. If there's something that you're desirous of, please reach out as early as you can so that we can try to accommodate what those requests are. I can't promise that the information is going to not come fast and furious. To the contrary, I can almost guarantee that information will continue to be fast and furious as it progresses. But here we are and it's January 8th, right? So
I think generally speaking, special town meeting doesn't have as many money.
no.
And then this year, we snuck, we didn't see, but some got in there that probably needed more time for coming into it.
Yeah,
Now, one was a total surprise at the last minute.
Right.
I got it on the 90,000.
the water bill.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
water
that
bill. I know you and I were able to talk at last minute when I returned from my trip, but yeah, generally speaking, we should, if we're gonna get in the practice of putting a lot of money to warrant articles and not just these routine paid prior, blah, 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 then we're gonna have to have more meetings leading up to that. And I don't think we should do it. I don't think.
Not special town meeting.
Yeah.
No, that's not.
I've asked, fair enough. I've asked for all folks, well, not the public, but all departments today. And when we talked about warrant articles, that specifically when they submit warrant articles, as soon as they come in, that they are copying the clerk and copying you.
Okay.
So that you have awareness around what those articles are and can start addressing them, you know, maybe peppering them in if they're ready. And I did ask, I mean, you have the warrant on that schedule that we have. The warrant, the subject matter for warrant articles. So I just want to talk about that for a second. It doesn't mean a final draft warrant article. The subject on all matters that a warrant article could be drafted around must be submitted by that March 16th date. And then you have hopefully a final vote on March 19th to vote on the final warrant. That a submission date to a final warrant in 3 days is probably darn near impossible unless folks get their warrant articles in as close to town meeting format as possible, as early as possible, and we can get them over to you. But a lot of the details are often in the motions. They're not in the articles, as you know. The articles are generic and the details are in the motions. And so
I mean, I understand that, you know, the information will be coming fast and furious up into the last minute. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to do better.
I don't disagree. That's why I said I think that communication can be improved all around. And so if there's things again specifically, let me know. If there's, I did tell all the department heads the schedule today. I asked them if there's any scheduling issues to get back so we could rearrange them. And I also told them anybody that had capital is expected to be there at the capital presentation, and everybody is expected to be there for the public hearing. So that's a specific piece of feedback that I was not aware of, that folks want this is an example. Folks want all department heads there at the public hearing so that if there is a question that is to their area, that they are there to answer it as the subject matter expert. So that was relayed today.
I have a question. How do you decide for a town meeting the order
It depends.
of the agenda?
It
Because I've been
depends.
to a couple town meetings now and I'm like, they're sneaking this in at the end when people are tired and gone.
It depends. I mean, I think that there's a general order of articles typically that is dealt with.
Who decides that?
Well, I
It's
think that
the select board's warrant.
Okay,
And I think in the past.
Zoning articles are usually at the end
In the
Mine
past, there
are-
has been,
first.
there's been some very heated arguments among select board members. And I remember Dave Matthews was the chair at that time. And it was clarified that the chair of the select board decides on the final order.
Okay.
No, that
Oh.
is, it is the select board's warrant as a board.
a vote.
It is a vote of the board on the warrant. It is not the chair's unilateral decision.
So again, I'm relying to you what I remember what happening
Okay.
it was a very heated and animated argument between Dave Matthews and this other member.
So they vote on the order.
They vote on the warrant,
Okay,
and that includes the order. So
Okay.
like which articles are making it, which articles aren't, and the order.
so as they vote, that's how they're going on the docket.
When do they actually do the order? 'Cause I've never heard them. I don't recall hearing talk about the order.
I think they just approve it with the order that's presented.
Yes.
So how they
Yeah.
put.
It's the order.
Yeah.
First draft,
Okay.
okay.
It's you, Jen.
But I mean, since I've been here, this board has moved the order around.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
Usually it's the standard stuff in the beginning, you know, a lot of the thousand here and then,
boards of committees.
yeah, and then it's the big, anything big. And then usually at the end, it's some smaller stuff or a specific area. And then at the end, there might be
Yeah.
some,
The other thing that
citizens petition.
I just want to point out, since we're talking about authority and warrants, and I think that this actually came up in another community, so not here, but there's a misunderstanding, I think, of what the warrant closing means and what that closing date means. That is a date that applies to everybody except for the select board. It is the select board's warrant, and they can include items on the warrant right up until they approve the final warrant. So that doesn't often happen. This happened in another community where the select board at the very end did put something on and there was a challenge, and
all right.
But-
I've just seen some pattern.
so,
And additionally, like people coming in for one thing and then the
then they
alternate
leave.
empty.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happens. That
Yeah.
definitely happens.
So
Why?
If you put that at the end.
yeah, I mean, sometimes there is that, right? Sometimes
know?
you do put things
Then
at the
they'll
end
come in.
because you want to hold sometimes you put things at the end because you're trying to hold a quorum. You're afraid that you're not going to hold a quorum through, like,
Yeah.
there's all different things.
It's,
Someone
yeah,
would call up somebody.
just wondering.
Yeah,
I was
we're on
just
item.
How it's done. I'm sorry to just.
Warrant
derail it,
6.
But I was like,
Warrant 8's gonna be in an hour, so come on in.
Right.
although you never know what's gonna take forever.
Right, yeah.
Chickens.
Weed killers.
Like, there is an article on chickens and banning chickens. Hours.
No. We need our chickens. All
It
right.
doesn't matter.
Some conservation.
My first town meeting, I was there because of dog leashes.
Yep, that's another good one.
Law, yeah.
Oh, the best one was the plastic bag. I
yeah.
never heard so much talk about cat litter as I did on that night. Like,
The people using,
that cat
they
litter
use,
was
they,
such
they
a subject.
put the plastic bags for their shoes to keep them dry.
It was awesome.
Okay,
Thousand-
any other thing on town meeting? All right, we have tri-board, I put tri-board discussions prior and upcoming, just in case there was anything on those.
I think what we talked a little bit about, maybe the next one.
I didn't have any old business. We have minutes from 10:23 and 11:13. Did everyone those?
Yeah.
All right, can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of 10:23 and 11:13?
So
Well, did you
moved.
see my correction I sent you
Yes,
on one of them?
yeah. Okay, was that made, do you know?
I don't know, I didn't get any response, so
Did you send it to just me?
I sent you and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. All right, with the inclusion of Jay's comment that you made a
Correction.
comment, not him.
well, he's on. the-
Oh, well. You don't want, you don't want to get stuck with that.
You're on the building design committee.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You had made a
What
comment,
Danielle
I
said
didn't-
was
I didn't notice
the
that.
Voices.
yeah.
Oh, gosh,
Yeah.
that's
just
rough.
Correcting that,
Wait, with that, okay, so
Okay, was there?
as amended.
Yeah, moved. I moved your motion.
Okay,
So.
second,
okay, so we're gonna have to roll call, all those in favor, Jean,
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Anna?
I,
Tanya?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. All right,
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I'm just gonna say that motion was made by Anna Lockwood and seconded by Tom Gray so that Danielle can hear. I think that was the only.
Oh, yes.
I'll just say thank you, Danielle, for keeping on top of that.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, are there any committee reports?
You know, we talked about this, we don't have committee assignments. So there couldn't be committee reports except for Tom who
I
serves.
think we've kind of,
I know I have not been assigned any,
No.
no.
so, I'll put on an upcoming.
Lastly,
All right, so for action, I think Gina has been, but action for topics, which meetings, I'll put committee assignments on.
Well, we're municipal building committee, we haven't had a meeting in, for a little bit. I just got an email, from our chairman today, but, I'll find out, guys, I think we want to move ahead on that, discussion.
Any other?
Big shout out to the third grade that scored really high
Yeah.
in that report today.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Today?
Well, last night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember how they said at the tri-board meeting that the metrics were really falling below?
Yes.
It does not seem that
Not
that
at all.
is the case.
Yeah.
Well, gotta cut their budget then.
Let's reverse that.
Kids are overachieving, can't have that.
All right, any other topics for, future meetings? And if anyone has anything along the way, just let me know. So Monty Tech will be our next, topic, plus committee assignments. All right, any public comment from the public? There's no public. Right, any public comment from any of us?
I'm gonna try my best to give you something to look at for Monday. Set your expectations to 0. And hopefully you will be pleasantly surprised, but
It would be really mean if I said they were already there.
yeah, no, that's fine. They can be there. They can be there. That's fine. That's fine.
I know General Yellen. All right, with that, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
second. So moved.
Oh, so moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so, Jay, moved it, Anna seconded it. All right, so, Jean,
Aye.
Mike,
Right.
Anna, Tanya,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye,
Tom, and I for myself, we are adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
I think we should do all our meetings down here.
I like
Stuff
this.
is